5 books, more than a dozen feature and documentary films, almost 30 songs, and hundreds of articles, all about one single person, John Wayne Gacy. Half a century ago, the serial killer from Chicago held the entire state of Illinois in fear. He was responsible for more than 30 proven murders. The brutal criminal was executed in 1994. But even after that, the hype around his persona continued to grow. Which is not surprising. Infamous criminals have long become heroes of a genre of mass culture known as true crime. Viewers simply love to get their nerves tingling. According to ratings, bloody stories break all records, and psychologists know very well what the secret to their popularity is. Such content adds vivid colors to someone's mundane, rather boring life. Besides that, there is interest, and it's always interesting to participate in investigations, to learn how it all happens. This also broadens one's consciousness and, promotes the production of dopamine. In 2022, sociologists decided to find out how strong Americans' love for the true crime genre is. It turned out that half of the respondents are interested in high-profile investigations, and every third participant in the study watches or listens to stories about killers and maniacs at least once a week. However, true crime enthusiasts are not driven solely by curiosity. It gives us a certain illusion of confidence and calm, because when we learn how crimes are committed and solved, it seems to us that in case of some danger, we can protect ourselves. And so it seems to us that this won't happen to us, and we can, identify a potential criminal. In criminal practice, there is even a case where a crime podcast helped solve a real crime a quarter of a century later. This is about the case of California State University freshman Kristen Smart. The 19-year-old girl disappeared after a party in the city of San Luis Obispo in May 1996. On the night of her disappearance, Kristen Smart did not go home alone. She was accompanied by 3 other students, including Paul Flores. According to his account, when he and Kristen Smart separated from the group of students, he headed to his dormitory, and she went to hers. However, 2 days later, Smart's roommate raised the alarm because the girl had simply vanished into thin air. A search began. Kristen Smart's photographs were posted on almost every poll. A reward was offered for any information about the missing student. It didn't help. After that fateful night, no one had seen her. Paul Flores, who was the last person to interact with the girl, was immediately among the main suspects. His behavior during the interrogation made the police even more suspicious. The guy kept contradicting himself and couldn't explain where the bruise under his eye came from. A search of the university campus convinced investigators that something was amiss. When specially trained dogs were used to search the dormitory, the animals reacted specifically to Paul Flores's room. But during his testimony, he invoked the Fifth Amendment 27 times, meaning he refused to testify against himself. Naturally, he did this on the advice of his lawyer. Paul Flores only provided his name, year of birth, and social security number. He flatly refused to answer any other questions. And this tactic worked. Soon, the police had to admit that there was no evidence of the guy's guilt. For about 10 more years, detectives searched for the girl's remains, all in vain. The case came to a complete standstill. Only in 2019, thanks to a podcast by journalist Chris Lambert, a breakthrough occurred in the investigation. Chris Lambert told his friend, a writer, about his interest in the case. And to his surprise, the friend replied in an email that he had attended middle school with Paul Flores, and they called him Creepy Paul. As the podcast gained popularity, more and more people began contacting Lambert with some information about Smart and Flores. One of the girls who wrote to the journalist even accused Paul Flores of sexual assault. When Chris Lambert started collaborating with the investigation, the police interviewed his sources. In the end, they managed to gather evidence. And in April 2021, Paul Flores was finally arrested on charges of murdering Kristen Smart. Later, the court sentenced him to 25 years in prison. However, the popular true crime genre more often hinders rather than helps American police in solving crimes. In 2004, this phenomenon even got a name, the CSI effect. The CSI effect literally means crime scene investigators. It is named after the eponymous television series where a fictional team of investigators solves various high-profile crimes in Las Vegas. Each episode begins with the discovery of a body, and, the professionals step in. They examine forensic evidence, interrogate witnesses, and apprehend criminals. The series about fictional killers and their methods of diverting suspicion became a ready-made manual for real criminals. This TV instruction was precisely what a 25-year-old American, an avid fan of the true crime genre, used. In December 2005, Jermaine McKinney broke into a house in Trumbull County, Ohio, where he killed 2 women. What was unusual about it? He took unusual measures to conceal his crime. He washed his hands with bleach, burned the bodies and their clothes, and tried to throw the murder weapon into a lake. Nevertheless, the criminal's cheat sheet did not help Jermaine McKinney avoid responsibility. The man was detained and, in November 2006, was sentenced to life imprisonment. The CSI effect complicated not only the search for killers. At the peak of the detective series' popularity, American investigators unanimously complained that they were now being asked to do the impossible. Some aspects of the popular crime shows at that time were considered unrealistic, and forensic experts said that practically about 40% of the supposedly scientific methods of catching criminals did not exist at all at that time. Moreover, American prosecutors claimed that due to crime films and programs, the justice system began to malfunction. They argued that jurors, having watched true crime, expect to be provided with a multitude of evidence of the suspect's guilt. Not getting what they want, they deliver a mistaken verdict and release real criminals. Perhaps the most high-profile case of this kind was the story of Robert Blake and his wife, Bonnie Lee Bakley. Bonnie Lee was shot dead on the evening of May 4th, 2001, near an Italian restaurant after dinner with her husband, a cult American actor. She was found in the passenger seat of her husband's car. The first bullet hit her in the shoulder, the second in the head, and the weapon was found nearby in a trash bin. But unfortunately, there were no fingerprints on it. The Hollywood actor was immediately suspected in the woman's death. The motive for the murder was obvious: jealousy. The fact is that Bonnie Lee Bakley was 23 years younger than her already quite elderly husband, and moreover, had a questionable reputation. Before meeting him, Bonnie Lee had worked as a model, placed ads in the newspaper offering herself as a companion for men, and she had this obsessive idea. She wanted a wedding specifically with a celebrity. After the birth of their daughter, Bakley announced that Blake was the father. He disagreed, demanded a paternity test, but the test confirmed that he was the biological father of the daughter. Reluctantly, the man had to marry her. But the main argument in favor of Robert Blake's guilt was the words of his colleagues from the film set. 2 stuntmen admitted that the actor wanted to hire them to kill his wife. In April 2002, the Hollywood celebrity was arrested. The trial began. However, 3 years later, Robert Blake was released. The jury fully acquitted him. This decision was called an incredible stupidity by Los Angeles prosecutor Steve Cooley. He claimed that the witnesses' testimonies fully proved the actor's guilt, and the killer avoided punishment precisely because of the notorious CSI effect. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out a lot. And please leave a comment below. I read every single one, and your feedback means the world to me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.